you were saying that you went to Maui just recently with Carmen and you decided to turn off your emails. I mean, in today's time, it just seems so hard. It sounds impossible to do. How did you end up doing that and being okay with it?
It's kind of embarrassing to say that, for the first time in nearly 18 years being in this industry that I'm in, that I was actually able to turn off my email to for an entire week. I've never done it before. I have never turned off my email when I've gone away. I've always been connected. And as a business owner and in my line of work, we are typically on 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And, I mean, obviously I have great staff who do look after my email, but, I tend to always be connected to it anyways. And, part of that and conversation I actually had with some of my staff is that I don't feel that it's okay for me to have them look after my email 7 days a week, evenings and weekends. So rather than me letting them look after my email, I choose to look after it myself. So when me and Carmen went away here in December, it was a time when I made a commitment to actually be logged out of my email on my mobile device when I was away for the entire time that I was away. And let me tell you, I wish I would have done this sooner because I finally got to actually unwind and relax when I was away and recharge. And, when you have that work email on your device when you're away, and, sure, we all spend some time on our devices when we're on vacation, whether we're, checking news or whatever else, getting on social media. If that one email comes in, it can completely derail your day or take up that mental space that you should really not be using while you're away on vacation. And I recall, the previous year when I went away, I got two emails, and those two emails ended up taking up about 4 days out of my vacation. One was related to marketing and one was related to a client. I mean, obviously, I do care about our clients and also some of the business stuff that has to be taken care of. So I decided at that time to jump in, and you know what? That's my fault. That's not my fault for not having that boundary when I was away on vacation. But this time when I went away, it was a great time to actually realize it. And I wish I would have realized it a long, long time ago. And there's, one thing that I will share with any new agent that's getting into the business or the ones that choose to join up onto our team is, the number one appointment in your device should be your significant other or your family. Because I think as an entrepreneur or as someone who is, always on the go, it is very hard to break that workaholic behavior that some people may have. And I'm guilty of that myself. And I think that if you can have those boundaries from the very beginning when you are either an entrepreneur or you start a business or a career where you kind of have to be a self-starter, I think it's incredibly important to set those habits early on, because let me tell you, it is one difficult habit to break, especially when you get going in it. And I'm, very, very fortunate to have a partner who's also an entrepreneur and a business owner. So, we can justify diving into our work emails or dealing with some work issues while we're away. We kind of accept that. And, it doesn't consume all of our days or anything like that. And, we sometimes get to do that while we are, somewhere tropical or away on a vacation. But, actually having a full week off with no work email and not even thinking about work, that was pretty nice. Not gonna lie.
When you got back to Calgary, did you go full force into work now that you're recharged, you're ready to go, new year, new me, let's go? Or did you take it gracefully and say, those boundaries, I need to apply them moving forward? Sure, I do need to check my emails now, maybe time slots, maybe in increments, not all day, every day.
It's really interesting because when I got back, my staff, they were actually really happy that I didn't jump into the email, except for that one time when I checked, some flight information and I forwarded a marketing email to the marketing department. But other than that, they were very happy that I actually stayed committed to the commitment that I made before we went away. And, I think it's like we live in a world where we get so many messages
Oh, yeah.
directed towards us. Someone will be like, "Hey, Zakir, I sent you a message. How come you haven't responded to it?" And you're like, "Okay, where did you send that message?" Yeah, everything ends up on this thing. But how many different communication channels are we exposed to on a daily basis? It's quite overwhelming. And I think it's important for us to, yeah, have some boundaries around that to kind of simplify, which communication channels that we want to focus on. Because sometimes when someone sends you a message, one of the questions is like, well, where did you send it? Was it a DM through, one of the social media channels? Was it, email, text, WhatsApp,
Yeah,
all the other
it
apps
never
for
ends.
messaging, Voxer, this and that? Like it just never ends, right? So I think obviously with technology, it has enhanced communication, but I think it's also getting to the point where it's overwhelming for us as human beings.
Totally. I mean, imagine us waking up and flowing with every message and emotion that we get through our phones. Like it'll just be like this all over the map. And that's what we tend to do if we guide ourselves through the emails and everything. We're just like this.
Well, I mean, I think, going through what we went through here during the pandemic, I mean, I think we got to witness the power of social media and electronic communication on how it was obviously creating a lot of division within the society of all the information and misinformation that everybody was sharing and exposing ourselves to through our mobile devices. And, it's distractions, really. And I believe that, as we're getting more and more surrounded with technology and communication and information, we need to be incredibly aware of what kind of information do we consume. Or, just like we have to be really conscious about the type of foods we eat, in order to remain healthy. I think we need to apply similar principles to the information that we consume, just so that we can, keep our sanity, if anything.
Absolutely. I took some time off social media during the Christmas holidays. I said, I need to back off because I realized people just started sending you messages all over the place because they're off work now. So here, check this out. Check this out. I'm thinking, oh my goodness. All right, I'm taking a break for a month. And felt good. Felt nice.
So how was that? How was that for you? Like, I mean, and again, I mean, you were not on any social media account?
Well, I'd go on, but I didn't post. I didn't engage. I looked a little bit and I would bounce. Just couldn't do it. It was just exhausting. I was burnt out. Year end, I was done.
It's interesting. I mean, if we sit there and look at human behavior, and it's actually pretty scary how we are all exposed to images, videos, and all these images are basically a millisecond of someone's life. Then those photos are enhanced and manipulated, or videos are even manipulated with filters. And the impact that that has on our brain, and when we sit there and compare ourselves to others, and we compare our life to the life that other people are posting on social media, I mean, it's all fake, essentially. Not everything is fake, but I mean, obviously there's some stuff that's real, but we sit there and we can easily go down that rabbit hole of comparing ourselves and then start feeling crappy about ourselves. And I think this is a big part that, we need to have that really heightened awareness of, especially when it comes to mental health, right? The impact that it has on us as adults, and then imagine the impact it has on the younger generation that's coming in. When I was younger, I mean, I think cell phones were just coming out. We had the big brick phones,
Oh, yes.
right? Didn't even text. I would have a pager. Your friends would page you to call them, and you'd have to find a payphone, or wait till you get home to call them. And the devices that the kids have now at a very early age, it was like, we didn't have computers that were that strong when we were young.
We had everyone sharing one computer or dial up. Yeah.
Hey, you give a kid a rotary phone today and they'll be like, what's this?
Here, play the snake game on the Nokias.
Yeah. Tetris.
Yes. Do you remember the Motorola Star Track or TAC, StarTAC?
StarTech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of miss them. They were indestructible.
Yeah, they lasted a long time, didn't they?
They sure did. Yeah. Do you ever wish we could go back onto a flip phone just for a day?
How about no phones for a day?
Hmm. Yeah.
Right? I mean, yeah, I mean, just looking back at the childhood of, the freedom that we had without all the distractions, being out in nature,
Bike riding.
riding our bikes around. Yeah. No helmets.
Oh, yeah.
That was scary stuff.
Exactly. I told you the other day, I read the book that you gave me again.
Oh, the shadow effect. Yes.
I had it out on my coffee table and I said, oh, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. But again, you can read a book or you can sit there and just scroll mindlessly through social media before bed. And I realized that had been sitting on my coffee table for over a month. And I said, come on. And I would let myself down because I would see it every night, but I just never opened it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Where did time go? So you almost need to get on things when it's bugging you. Do you believe that?
I think as human beings, I mean, we all thrive on routine. And we also thrive if we, take action to do that personal work or the self-improvement, or, don't procrastinate. I mean, everybody has procrastinated or will procrastinate. And, it's just, again, we all have a choice when we get up, right? To get out of bed. That's an action. We have a choice to, yeah, pick up that book, read 10 pages, read a chapter. And it's all choice management that we have to navigate through, right? So, picking out a book like that, it's not the first time that you read it. And, it's all about what you get out of that book. And, that book was introduced to me by a very good friend and coach and a mentor, and that I started working with about 6 years ago. And he himself, I mean, he was up here speaking to my team a few years ago, where he held up that book and he had read that book over 450 times.
Wow.
Right. But it's just, again, it's not necessarily about how many books you can read. It's about what you can get out of a book, because some books can be incredibly impactful on us when we read them, and then perhaps we read it again and we'll get something else out of it.
What made you give me that book?
You know what? I've given that book to a lot of people that I care about. It was a book that had a huge impact on myself personally. And, we all have that shadow. That shadow is that negative inner dialogue. Everybody has it, right? And it's really learning to recognize it and to ensure that you have the tools to acknowledge that it's there, but also not allowing that inner dialogue, the negative inner dialogue that is, to self-sabotage you. And, I think it's an amazing book. It has many, many amazing messages to reflect on. And, I give those books to the people that I do care about.
Thank you. We talk about negative dialogue. Sometimes it's hard to look in the mirror. You are not only looking at yourself in the mirror, but you're driving and you'll see yourself. You're out there. And you and I have talked about it. It is nerve-wracking for you. People don't realize how hard it is to be out there and put yourself out there. Yet there's something empowering because clearly you can see through the results something is working for people, which I find beautiful.
Yeah, even when you say that, I get a little emotional because it's really fascinating. Marketing is a fascinating thing to do. It's fascinating when you can get the marketing to work for your business. And obviously, in my industry, it's a lot about promoting your brand and your name in your industry to attract and draw people to use you for the services that we offer in the real estate industry. And back in 2010, I was essentially instructed that I had to start a team. And that's when a team started. And, it wasn't necessarily my choice. But, again, being fairly new in the business at the time, you had to build a name. So, yeah, we figured Justin Havre Associates. Now, putting myself out there, I mean, I look at this as an honor and a privilege and a responsibility for, the people that I get to work with. Having nearly 80 people in my organization with staff and other advisors. It's my obligation to generate the opportunities for everyone in the organization so they can, again, get out there and serve Calgarians with their real estate needs at a high level. And, in a partnership with them, yeah, I have to put myself way out of my comfort zone. And, being a natural introvert where, if I had it my way, people wouldn't know who I was. I would just be sitting on my computer in the basement, working on the websites or doing something related to marketing. And yeah, it's definitely a pretty interesting journey to go through to put myself out there way out of my comfort zone. The billboards, I mean, it's weird. I try to have the blinders on when I drive around and even walk around. But it's like I said, it's not easy. It's uncomfortable. I mean, just like it's uncomfortable for people to do a video or see yourself on a video. I mean, I'm human. I'm the same. But at the same time, I challenge myself each and every day to, you know, um, work through all of those things because I think it's important for the people that I get to work with. And at the same time, it's also amazing to connect with so many of our clients and, deliver on the results that, they hire us to do and making sure that we have an impact on them and their families because there's so many rewards on the one side, but at the same time we all have those inner challenges that we all got to overcome.
Totally. I remember seeing I remember seeing you at the airport. I think it was a 40-foot by 100-foot banner. You'd land and you'd say, "Hey Justin, how's it going?" I mean, you're waiting for your bags and I see you. So you're everywhere. It's remarkable. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that airport, I mean, that was it was a 24 by 100-foot billboard there on the side of the parkade. Yeah. I did that once, and but you know what? Again, going to the airport there's been many uh, interesting experiences up there. One time I went up to the WestJet counter, and the lady behind the counter, she's like, "Were you here yesterday?" And I'm like, "Nope." She's like, "Hmm." She kind of puzzled by it, right? I didn't say, it's because of the marketing or anything like that. Another time I went up to the gate. This is actually when I had my leg broken too. I was on crutches.
Oh, I remember that. Was that from the
And
skiing or snowboarding accident?
yeah, the snowboarding accident. But yeah, no, so I was flying out to somewhere for some conference or something like that. And, you know, they recognized who I was at the gate and, they definitely made me turn redder than a tomato by blasting it on the intercom that look who's here. Um, but then at the same time, it's it's again part of the marketing, and I just gotta, again, it is uncomfortable, but at the same time, you know that the marketing is working as well.
We talk about the negative dialogue that we have to face and overcome. How do you control the external factors of others around? Well, you're out there, so people can put labels on people when they're too noisy. I know someone that's on social media that gets bullied often because, oh, they think they're so cool or they're it because they're always showing their life on social media, but that's their career, that's their job. How do you ignore the naysayers in life? Because that can hurt, those words.
Oh, they can hurt if you let them, right?
Mm,
And I mean, I think again, when you start to understand a little more about human behavior and you understand projection, you know, if people are going to point at you, typically three fingers that point back. So usually that is something within themselves that they may not necessarily like in themselves that they project onto you. And I mean, I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, but just understanding the basics of human behavior when it comes to that. And sure, it can be jealousy, it can be people that get triggered and somehow, but that's on them. It's on them how they react or respond or what they say. And you just got to learn to turn out the noise and not allow it to take your energy really, and have those boundaries. We all have a choice of what kind of information that we want
yeah.
to see, observe, and take in. And you just got to choose just to turn a blind eye to it. And it's also a sign that the marketing is working, right?
It
Like
sure is.
I have friends that do way more marketing than I do, and you know, some of my friends will gauge their advertising campaign based on the hate that they get on Twitter.
Interesting.
It's like, hey, good or bad, it's marketing, it's working, right? So, at the end of the day, I mean, that's not my objective at all to try to create haters or anything out there. And it's I can understand that, you know, having my image plastered all over the billboards around town can seem like it's ego, but it's not. I can assure you that. I don't necessarily enjoy it, but it's again part of building a brand attached to a person. Now, it has created that omnipresence in the marketplace as well. And at the same time, there are many times when I will meet people and they're like, oh, you're not how I thought you would be. So the marketing has again created this persona of what they think I am like versus
Who you truly
how
are.
I actually am when they meet me, because they paint this image in their mind that someone that's going to do that kind of marketing must have a big ego or this and that. And
Which is totally the opposite because I have known you for many years and we've been friends. So far from.
yeah, I mean, it's, what, it's fascinating. I mean, and again, it's fascinating again to observe how people react and respond. And at the end of the day, we all have a personal responsibility in how we respond or react to anything. That's on us. Um, you know, if you're upset at something, I mean, that's on you
Go look in
because
the
it
mirror.
triggered that emotion within you.
For the people that don't know you, Justin, you were born in Norway. You came to Calgary at a young age. Am I right?
You got it right.
Did you know you were going to be an entrepreneur? Did you have family in real estate? Was any of this written in the stars?
No, not at all. I guess like when we came over, I was 13 years old, and it wasn't easy. I mean, obviously coming to a new country, new culture, new language, being 13, going right into grade 7, because in Norway we actually start schooling at the age of 7. There's many years of struggles, especially learning the English language. I was put in small ESL classes away from, the other kids in certain classes. And, at the same time, I had, some great people in my class in junior high that also helped me with my homework. You know, my friend Patrick's mom, she spent many hours helping me with my English homework. And there was actually a time when I would be sitting there doing, back then we would, write definitions of certain English words, and then I would sit there and translate that from English to Norwegian. And I remember I'd be up till like 11 o'clock at night, some nights just doing my English homework. And, it wasn't probably until like high school where I became more comfortable and becoming more outgoing. And, but at the same time, I think one of the things that, immigrants that come to Canada, they see this as a land of opportunity. And, our parents wanted us kids to experience something different than Norway, although Norway is, one of the best places in the world to live. And, my first job, I was actually 14 years old. And, I was delivering flyers and newspapers. And then I had a job at 7-Eleven as a stock boy, and may or may not have been paid in Slurpees for a time. but even one of my teachers in junior high was kind of giving me crap for hanging out at 7-Eleven. So I mean, I learned a lot of English at 7-Eleven as well, which probably not the best place to learn English, but spent quite a bit of time there playing video games and stuff, and mopping the floors for Slurpees, and then eventually got a job there. I think it was $4.25 an hour.
Wow, $4.25 an hour.
I know, right? Like, yeah. But at the end of the day, you know what? I think we all essentially can have that entrepreneurial spirit within ourselves, and it takes risk for sure. But you also got to have a vision. You got to have a dream. You have to have the ability to manifest what you want to create for yourself. And I think that's why you see so many immigrants in this country do so many amazing things. And, that's, one of the things that makes Canada so amazing. It's all the people, because we're from so many, again, lots of amazing Canadians, but there are also lots of amazing people that have made Canada their new home. Right. And, your family is also, from abroad as well, right? And has made Canada
East Africa,
home.
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I always think, though, when we think of entrepreneurship, were you afraid of failure? Were you ever afraid of not achieving this vision, this goal that you had? And where did this vision and goal come from, first of all?
When I first got into real estate, I just, I just wanted to have a successful career. I got married, and, I wanted to provide for our family and start a family. And, clearly that was something that unfortunately didn't pan out, or fortunately didn't pan out, whichever way you look at it. And, I remember, even going through the divorce and stuff like that. It was a time when I was recognized as the top agent at the brokerage where we used to be at. And I got the email notification, and I remember sitting in this big empty house, and I cried, because I'm like, this is what so-called success is supposed to feel like. And, it was empty. It was lonely. But it took me a few years to obviously work through that. And I, to be honest, I hid in my work. I said to myself, work is all I have left. And, I went almost 5 years before I took a 1 week vacation. But that was my way of coping with it. And I think my obsession and just diving into work to hide essentially in my emotions, and without, dealing with my the stuff that I should have done the work for. Again, should, or maybe I shouldn't, because everything works out the way it's supposed to work out at the right time. And, I think that was a big foundational piece to where, this business is today. And I never had a plan to build this big real estate team to be, top real estate team in Calgary for most homes sold for, now nearly 5 years, or number 2 in the world, which we got recognized for here later in the fall. I mean, that's just a byproduct of, me being so fortunate to having been surrounded by so many amazing people um, along my real estate journey. And, everybody has contributed to where the organization is today. Some people have been with us, they have left, they have moved on to have different careers, or even built their own real estate career. And, I'm just very fortunate to have had so many amazing people and still have amazing people today. And, again, it's just something that I never, like I said, I never had this idea to build this big team.
Are you ever afraid of snapping out of all this and that was just a dream what you have built? I mean, it's remarkable.
Oh, like coming out of the Matrix or
Coming
something
out of
like
the
that?
Matrix.
No, you know what? It's crazy how fast time flies. I mean, this February will be 18 years that I've been in this business, and it doesn't feel like 18 years. But at the same time, going back to fear. I mean, I think whenever you start something new, whenever you start a new career, um, there's some fear involved in that because it's change. Sure, there's excitement, but then if you are in a position where you're creating your own opportunities, where, yeah, you don't have a paycheck on the 1st and on the 15th. And oh, by the way, you have to now invest into your business to generate the opportunities, build the support system, hire people. I
SEO.
mean, well, every time that I mean, when I made my first hire, I mean, it was terrifying, right? Like, oh my God, now I'm responsible for this person's salary. Now I got to go out there and make more money in order to pay for that, right? I mean, I think anybody that has ever started any sort of company and taken on a responsibility to hire an employee, I mean, the first one is very terrifying. And, obviously the fear of failure, I think, is something that every entrepreneur will have, but at the same time, that can also be the driver for you to ensure that you don't fail. But if you do fall on your face, it's always a lesson, and it's always about getting back up and learning from those failures to go at it again, because as long as you don't quit, you don't fail.
Do it. What it says in the back, don't quit, do it.
Yeah, true. I guess so. Hey, maybe that's how I was drawn to it.
Someone wants to be the next Justin Havre. If somebody wants to join a team, get into real estate, what do they do? Where should they start? Because, we see these selling sunsets and all of that. It's not all real. And I'm sure they quickly realize that.
I can't even watch. Well, I mean, you know what? I shouldn't say I can't watch them. I tried watching Selling Sunset, but I just couldn't. Um, you know, the thing is, those shows, first and foremost, they're all built around drama. Drama sell, like reality TV is drama, and that sells those shows. I've met several of the people that have been stars of $1 Million Listing and so forth, and you know what? They're actually normal people. They're not as dramatic as they appear on TV, and they will even say like, "Yeah, no, it's all made up for TV." And but at the end of the day, I mean, if someone's looking to get into real estate, I think it's really important that they find a mentor, or perhaps where I'm going to say, join a team. Join a team or a mentor that can teach you all the ropes of the business, because at the end of the day, it's about building that foundational skill set for your career. And I was very fortunate to, have Mike Hanna. Mike Hanna was my agent, uh, before I got into the business. And then he took me in under his wings. And, I've learned lots from him. And I still, have the honor to actually work with him today. He's one of the team members on my team. And, he's been in the business for 26 years. And, but at the same time, getting into this business, it can be incredibly rewarding, but you have to be a self-starter. You can have all the training, all the opportunities, all the systems and all that stuff, but you have to have the get up and go, get out of bed and take action. I think one of the things that I see as the biggest challenge for people that are getting into this business, and when I got my license, my teacher, George Matthews, who you may recall, he actually said, look around this room. And in 2 years' time, there will only be two of you left in this business. And I'm sitting there going, I'm like, why did I get myself into this industry? Like, if I'm going to fail, right? And the reality is that this industry is known to have an 87% failure rate in the first 5 years, right? And I mean, your dad, he's had an incredible career and done exceptionally well as well. And it takes a lot of work. And but for someone getting into it now, I think you cannot be focused on, trying to get into the industry and think that it's going to be easy, because it's not. You have to be willing to do the work. You have to be willing to be that constant student and put in that work to, again, like I said, it's critical to build that foundation for your career with training, coaching, systems, mentoring, and then apply yourself. And I think one of the things, I mean, obviously it's an industry where, people can make a lot of money. And I think it's incredibly important to be grounded when it comes to that. Don't let money change who you are as a person. Don't let that get to your head. Because if you want to have a long career, don't let that ego take over and kill your career. Because, egos can get in the way of many things.
How did you tame your ego through this whole career that you've had thus far? Is it mentors that you find that break you down? Because oftentimes we can find mentors that say things we only want to hear. That's another thing.
True. I mean, I think it's important to surround yourself with good people, right? And have mentors and people that inspire you. And I'm very fortunate to have a lot of mentors outside of this market, in other markets in North America, and some of the top agents in this world that are operating at a much higher level than I am. And just having friends like that kind of grounds you. I mean, I can sit in a room with them and I'm the smallest guy. And, I just look at that as a way to be inspired, and I learn from them. I'm a sponge, and I can see what I can do to bring that back here to, continue to grow and evolve the business that we have built for our organization, and how I can impact the agents that, I have the honor and privilege to work alongside.
Where do you see the
And
future of the Justin Havre team?
yeah, you know what? It's continue to evolve, and ensure that we continue to provide that 5-star Google experience for our clients, making sure that we deliver on the results that we promise, and walking people through the home buying or selling process, alleviating as much stress and obstacles as possible, and making people's dreams come reality. I think that many people think that, oh, real estate agents just put a for sale sign up in the yard, take some photos, and the property gets out. Well, you know what? Maybe that's true for, you know, at the start of last year, where, the housing market was just insane. Like, you put a for sale sign up in the yard, you could get it sold. Now, it could be argued that, maybe you didn't get the seller the best offer, especially if someone were to say, oh, yeah, I sold it on the first showing, or sold it before it hit the market. I think the important factor is to always do what is best for your clients, no matter what. And that's not necessarily about getting a quick sale. And, we had many instances there last year where, we had a certain process because we wanted to get the market to get through the property so that we could get as many buyers bidding on the property and then extract as much money from the market that would go into the pocket of the seller. And some instances like that that we came across. I mean, we had a few scenarios where people were perhaps not in a good situation. I remember there was one property in Southeast Calgary where they had met with one agent, and that agent had said, yeah, they had an investor that would purchase a property for like 425. He could just give them a call and they would have it done, and because they weren't in a good financial spot. We had a plan, and we asked them if they could take off for a weekend, and they did. And we listed it for higher than the 425. We listed it for 450, and we ended up getting them $111,000 over asking price. Now, when they got that offer and they signed it and they realized how much they had sold their property for, both of them fell to the floor crying because they didn't even have enough money to buy milk for their family. They were just packing up to leave to go back east. So when you can have that kind of an impact on a family, yes, it's selling real estate. But some of these situations that we come across, it's more than just putting up a for sale sign. It's ensuring that, we put together a strategy and a plan, and, for sellers that we get the best price possible out of the market at that time. And some of those instances, it can be whether it's a family that's looking to relocate, whether it's, and a situation like you just explained, or, someone coming out of a bad relationship that wants to, take the kids and relocate, and where, the lady, like, the amount of money that we got, the more we're asking price, changed her life. So she could start that over for her and her kids. Like many scenarios like that, it's incredibly rewarding that, myself and the team, we get to be part of some of these situations to help them get to a better place sometimes. And there's always going to be people that are going to buy and sell real estate based on circumstances and needs, as very well from your father being in this industry for many
Yeah,
decades,
it's been a while.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while, right? And it's an interesting industry to be in because every day is different. The market can change. We can have new mortgage rules that come into effect. Now we got higher interest rates. We got to deal with that environment. Toronto comes to Calgary. Like,
Number one thing is, what would you tell your younger self, or an agent that's right now in school saying, can't wait to get out there? What would you tell that person?
one of the things that I would probably say to my younger self would be to, dive into personal development at a much younger age. Clearly, if you were to say that to a 25-year-old, a 30-year-old, I think people are not as receptive to jump into personal development, at least, not the entire population or anything like that. But I think it's important because, we all have emotions. We all have, a mind, and a mind that can wander. And, our thoughts can turn into those emotions. But if we can get control over our thoughts and also have the ability to regulate our emotions, because, especially if you're going to be in real estate, you're dealing with clients. A buyer is always sitting in fear when they're going through the purchase process. When I bought my first house, when I bought my second house, whatever, every time there's a level of fear and doubt. And those emotions can obviously trigger certain reactions or responses. And, as being a real estate agent, you have to then help navigate other people's emotions. And then it's, also important for yourself to ensure that you don't, I mean, you're going to care about your clients. So obviously you're going to have that empathy and understanding, but not to take that on yourself, right? Because, I look at this industry as, you're going to deal with buyers that are emotional at times. You're going to deal with sellers that may be emotional, whether if they're selling because they're downsizing, they lost a job, divorce, or domestic restructuring, a little bit softer, or death. There's going to be emotion and attachment to the house that they're selling or the situation. Then you may have to deal with, the agents on the other side of the transaction who also can be emotional because they may be feeling that they need to be emotional to fight for their client. And then you got to deal with your own emotions through all of that. So it's like literally sailing through a shitstorm at times. But if you can have the tools and the resources to do that inner work and a better understanding of your own self, it will give you the tools to navigate through that. But I think that's typically something that comes when we get a little bit older and we have the open mind to do that inner work.
You do something with your team. Actually, you do quite a bit of things, but one of them I find really fascinating is your vision boards. You guys all sit down and we'll start cutting out magazines and putting something together. I mean, you've been doing this for years, and you actually have a lot of your vision boards. Where did that come from, and what does that tool do for people out there?
It's interesting. I mean, yeah, you know what? I've been doing this since I think about 2009, 2010 when I was like, and again, going through a divorce, I wasn't in a good place. And, I didn't put a lot of effort into a vision board back then, but, it's something that I think it came from that movie, The Secret, or the book, The Secret, way
Oh
back
yeah.
in the day, right? That's kind of where the idea came from. And it's about manifesting. And I can tell you this, every time that I've done a vision board, and yeah, we do it as a yearly exercise with a team, and even the team members will come and say the next year, it's like, yeah, you know what, like everything on my vision board became a reality. And it's about manifesting the life that you want to achieve or live, and then planting that in the unconscious mind to really take action and to have something that you're working towards, because, we all get into the daily grind. But if you have a vision board that, whether it's up on your bathroom mirror or on a wall somewhere, and you see that and you're like, yeah, you know what, I really want to go to on that vacation to Hawaii, or, I really want, whether it's a car or, somebody wants to buy a bag or whatever it is.
Do you hide your vision board though?
Well, I mean, I have one here. That's a new one that I'm working on.
So it's right in your office. Nice.
Well, typically I just put it up on my bathroom mirror. You brush your teeth, you see it twice a day, right?
No, that's amazing. Have you thought about Chat GPT and technology, and how is it changing? Are we losing the human touch, especially when it comes to real estate?
Chat GPT, I mean, it's a fascinating tool to dive into. And I don't recommend that you start playing with it at 3 a.m. because you can't sleep. Um, you're going to be up if that's what you do. I can speak from experience. It's definitely fascinating. I mean, it's an incredible tool if you know how to use it. But at the same time, yeah, is it going to take a lot of the thinking out of some of the stuff that we as human beings do? Um, it's kind of scary in some ways of how fast technology is really moving.
Are you afraid of AI?
You look at the AI in even in the Teslas, the full driving capabilities, and I was playing around with that in my Tesla there for a bit, and I'm like, it's a little sketchy and weird to having
So it was 100% autonomous?
something drive your vehicle and your hands off, and you're like, I don't know, or are you going to hit the curb there or not, or curb? Yeah.
So what if you're in your Tesla? Are you allowed to text? Because technically you're not driving.
You are driving. You're sitting in the driver's seat. You are responsible for the vehicle. And actually, the newer Teslas will actually have a camera that will detect whether or not you're on your phone or if you're not looking ahead, and it will beep and warn you.
Oh, interesting. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I think I mean, eventually, I think the vehicles will be, fully AI driven, but it's going to take time for the machine to learn. And, you still hear of accidents here and there. But, back to the technology aspect and artificial intelligence, I mean, you've probably seen, Joe Rogan interview Elon. And, you know, what does Elon see as one of the biggest dangers in the world is unregulated artificial intelligence. Because again, I don't know. Remember Terminator when that movie came out?
It's a reality. It's becoming a reality
How many how many times do you sit there today and think about Terminator the movie?
all the time.
Right? Skynet,
God, that is creepy.
right? Like, um, yeah, and then Elon's building these little robots as well.
Well, he was talking about assassin drones, and all it takes is a little chip you could program now, facial recognize somebody, and just send it off, and it'll go do its thing. Like that's scary, and it doesn't take a lot to do in this day and age.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's scary, right? I mean, again, if artificial intelligence is used for war, weapons, I mean, yeah, some of the military drones that they have out there are as small as a bird.
From a technology standpoint, are you seeing a lot of AI being implemented?
You know what? I mean, we use AI ourselves in our some of our systems and automations and so forth. But I think that, there are definitely disruptors in the real estate industry, like some of the big portals out of the US. They actually use AI to even scan and listen to the phone calls that are being made through the system to pick up certain words and rate
Oh
the
wow.
engagement between the potential buyer and the agent and then score them. There's definite AI that comes in the background of many of the websites. And again, I think it's going to be more and more readily available for our industry. But at the end of the day, I don't think AI is going to really disrupt our industry because, again, it's a person to person. It's a person. Well, I mean, let me just say this: people are always going to want to have some sort of an advice or walk them through some of their biggest financial decisions. Maybe some people, will be more and more accustomed to relying on the technology piece, but a lot of people are going to want someone there to help them dissect information and ensure that they're doing all the right steps when they're making that big financial purchase, right? So I think human beings or the human interaction will always be a part of the real estate transaction. It's just the AI is going to just help enhance the productivity of agents that choose to embrace it, and you know, we'll see how it goes.
Totally. And I'm wondering is have you seen people use blockchain or crypto in terms of purchasing assets, or is only in the States we're seeing that? Have you seen it in Canada?
I've heard of. I mean, we've had some interesting scenarios over the years of people saying they're going to buy property with crypto and so forth. And sure, you know what, there are people that will obviously do it. And it typically how someone will purchase a property, if they have or had a large crypto portfolio, because I think the crypto isn't doing that well right now. But I mean, if they were cashing out their crypto to put it into fiat, typically what they would do is they would turning into a U.S. currency
Okay.
and into the U.S. bank, and then they would bring it up from a U.S. bank into Canada. But actually exchanging cryptocurrency, like, hey Zach, what's your wallet? I'm going to transfer you X number of bitcoins for your house. Um,
We're not
I
there
don't know of
yet.
any.
Yeah.
I don't know of any transactions like that,
Okay. That makes
unless it was a
sense.
private deal. Because I mean, up here you need to have, I want to make sure that you have lawyers facilitating the transaction to make sure that the title transfer and the funds transfer, right? And that means that they need to have the funds sitting at the lawyers for the closing date.
What did your grandmother teach you, Justin? What are some values you have from her? Because she was very close to you.
My grandmother. I mean, yeah, she was like a second mom. She, obviously very caring and nurturing, just like my mom. But she also worked incredibly hard, and she had grit and determination. She was an incredibly strong woman. I mean, she also carried a lot of pain with her because she lost her son, my uncle, and my mom lost her brother. And that, I think was something that, my grandmother carried with her until the day that she passed. And I think that, she didn't show the grieving, but she was incredibly strong. She lived till she was 96. And I think, some of the things that I even remember the stories, again, coming from Norway, where obviously Norway was invaded in World War II.
Hmm.
And she had, stories from the war that I remember she would share them when I was younger. And, just hearing that and what they went through and how challenging that was, how little they lived on and how small of a space the entire family would live in. And, she even had a story where she was walking with a metal milk bucket and she walked by a German soldier and she said she didn't know what came over her, but she swung that bucket out of anger on the side of the head of the German soldier. And she thought for sure that he was going to kill her on the spot. And, he just kind of shrugged his shoulders and just let her keep walking. And, you know,
Wow.
I can't imagine living through that. And I think that, one of the things that's us Canadians, I think we were incredibly fortunate to live where we're living. You look at what's going on over in Europe right now with Ukraine and Russia, and there's a lot of fear over there over something potentially spreading or whatnot. I mean, I know that in Norway, and in many countries in Europe, they were mandated to basically have bomb shelter for every person in the country. Like I used to go swimming inside of a mountain at a public swimming pool that used to be a bomb shelter.
Oh my goodness.
And that was actually turned into hockey arena during the Olympics when they had the Olympics over there in '94. But even the junior high school, we had a bomb shelter in the junior high school.
It's a different way,
Right.
different
So
life.
yeah, so I mean, you know what? Over here, do anybody have bomb shelters? No. People don't think of it, or maybe a couple people think of it, but it's. I think it's. We kind of went on a little bit of a tangent there, but I think it's something that's important for all of us to kind of reflect on. That what? Sure, we may not all get along. We may not all agree on the politics, or we may not agree on who has the best hockey team or anything like that. But we live in a pretty amazing country with a lot of amazing people. And I think we all need to just, be a little kinder to each other, especially during these times from what we have all been through here in the last few years, because it has been very tough on on families, on friends, on individuals. Mental health is huge. And I think we got to show some empathy to each other and kindness. We're all going through shit, every one of us. And we all got to, just take a step back sometime rather than react or respond, and, show some empathy to that person. If they're not having a good day, um, kill them with kindness. It's everybody's human. Everybody has feelings and emotions.
No, absolutely. You know, one thing I got to say is you went on a fighter jet, and it was so interesting later on that you talked to your mother about it, but she was so afraid. But in a way, you paid homage to your uncle. And I thought that was beautiful in that manner, that how that happened.
Yeah. You know what? I had the opportunity to do that out at Springbank Airport here, and the opportunity was presented to me by one of my colleagues, who knew the pilot that was basically flying the jet, and I went to my mom to ask for permission if she would be okay if I would go up, because my uncle, he passed away in a fighter jet. He
That's
had
her
2 weeks
brother.
left. Yeah, her brother. He had 2 weeks left in the army, and he was on a mission up in northern Norway, and they were flying a mission through one of the fjords, and it was really foggy, and yeah, he crashed, and that was it. But yeah, 2 weeks before he was done, and then he was going to be a commercial airline pilot. So getting up into that plane, it was neat. It was a neat experience for sure, and I think that's really what life is about. Sometimes it's just creating some of these experiences for yourself. We all can, you know, think we want to buy stuff for this and that, but at the end of the day, you're not going to take any of that with you, but you can take experiences with you. And I was very fortunate to have my mom's blessing to do that. And
What was the G force on that?
it was north of 5, and I did black out because we did. One of the things that he did near the end was he's like, let's go bust a tower. And I said, sure, kind of like Top Gun, right? And, although when we did it, I just remember my head just kind of tingling. I didn't feel like I blacked out. And he's the one that told me that I blacked out because he looked at the footage. And I was just like, dunk out. And then I just came to a few seconds later. But yeah, no, a lot of fun.
What an experience.
Didn't throw up. But yeah, no, you do about 5 Gs in it. And, like it's really interesting too, because I mean, obviously, before you get into playing, they're like, okay, this is the kind of breathing technique that you need to do to make sure that you can kind of hold your core and so you don't black out. And, I perhaps wish I maybe would have had more training and practice on it, because then maybe I wouldn't have passed out and I could have had a little more fun.
Well, I've seen the video, and maybe we'll put it up for the listeners, but you were just puffing. Like there was a certain way of breathing. Like you had to breathe really hard, didn't you?
Yeah, you just basically you gotta really just engage your entire core and kind of hold your breath, because you don't want your blood to go down into your legs, right? Because you want to try to hold your blood up into your head. So if you compress or just really engage your core really hard, it will restrict the blood from going out of your upper body and head. It's weird stuff, but
Were you out of it for a few days?
no, no, no. It's just feeling maybe a little bit woozy afterwards, and it felt like you were walking on a boat.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of like a little
Fun
seasick.
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's remarkable that you overcame a fear after you hurt yourself on a snowboarding trip. And it was actually a pretty severe damage or that happened to your leg. I remember they were going to cut it off, weren't they? Or amputate it.
I don't know if it's overcoming fear. I think it's just, and again, it was a freak accident just out in Revelstoke. And yeah, I mean, it was a pretty extreme break. It was a tibial plateau fracture type 6 with a patella tendon tear. and basically, yeah, tore my patella tendon right off the bone, and was, shattered the bottom of my knee, and then the tibia and fibula. Should have listened to my friend that said, go around, don't do the jump. So lesson number one. Lesson number two, um, take them up on the laughing gas when they offer it, because I declined that for the 1 hour of riding off the mountain into the ER. But yeah, no, they had to transfer me to another hospital, and they said I was at high risk of compartmental syndrome. And again, you're kind of in a state of shock. And I'm like, okay, English, what does that mean? They said you're at high risk of amputation. We got to transfer you to another hospital. And that's when you're like, what? Like, okay, then it becomes real. But you learn. Lesson number two: mobility is a gift. Mobility is a gift, and anything that we have can be taken away in a second. And, then you learn how important it is to have mobility and how important health is. And then you get to sit in the classroom of patients, because, you got to do the rehabilitation. And if mobility means a lot to you, trust me, you'll put in the work and go to physio and do all the stuff that you need to do to rehab. And, I still continue to work on it to this day. Not 100%, but very close to it. And yeah, back skiing, snowboarding, and I was back on the snowboard within a year. That was more of a personal victory to, you fall and you get back up.
That's life, isn't it? Fall, get back up, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? We have a choice, right? And the choice is keep going.
Keep going. Well, I think we can leave it at that today, but I appreciate you, man. Thank you for this.
Appreciate you too. We should catch up and do a coffee or something.
Yes,
It's been
please.
a while.